If you want to grow fast as an agent, you've got to get the layers right. And the first layer to all knowledge is making sure that you're phenomenal at understanding everything about your area. Now, when we talk about area expertise, where are the expensive streets? Where are the cheap streets? How long does it actually take to get into the CBD? If you think about getting access to the airport, what about transport? Is there ferries? Is there buses? Does everyone drive to that location? What's it actually like? Where do people go to go and have a picnic? Where do they go for a run? Where do they go for a nice leisurely walk? That area knowledge is a really important thing to have, because if you're actually helping to sell a property in an area where someone's never been before, you've got to be able to pinpoint those area specialties that ultimately go to drive price. Outside of area knowledge, the next layer is then what we've got to call market knowledge. Now, market knowledge is actually knowing everything about that marketplace, about that whole conversation on how much a 1-bedder, 2-bedder, 3-bedder actually leases for, and how much a 1-bedder, 2-bedder, 3-bedder, 4-bedder actually sells for. What are ultimately the drivers of price in that particular area? Is it access to water? Is it access to golf courses? You get the idea. Outside of that, we've then got the market dynamics of the day. So is there a large number of properties that are on market over 180 days? Is there a large number over 90, over 60, over 30 days? Or is everything actually selling in under 28 days or less? And you can get a bit of an idea about what's actually happening with auction clearance rates, the total number of properties that are selling on a monthly basis versus the total number of listings that are currently available in that area. And ultimately understanding the dynamics about what's actually hot and what's not in terms of price points and sizes of properties. Once you've got that whole idea about understanding what's happening at the market level, then we've then got to go to what we've got to call the transactional level. So what do we actually do to get a deal together? So when it actually comes to signing an agency agreement, to signing a contract of sale, to getting that deal unconditional, to selling under auction conditions, or doing it through the for sale process, what do you actually do if someone actually wants to sign the contract, but their partner's not available to sign on that same day? How do you have the conversation around what you actually do throughout that whole process? And what actually happens if you as the agent would like to participate and to go and buy that particular property? What's actually allowed under legislation if you're selling that particular property, and how you actually have to disclose that to buyers as a part of that conversation. Now, that's an important conversation to get right in the transactional layer. And once you're really confident about what you're doing transactionally, then we then go to the final layer, which is really about the finesse of building your skills. Now, the skills layer is actually about understanding that you know all of the basics, and now you've got to think about the 3 areas that ultimately go to build you as a better agent. What do I do to actually go to generate my leads? What do I do to then make sure that I actually win in the listing presentation? And then what do I do to actually sell the existing properties that I've actually got to market? One of the greatest challenges that we see with agents is that they enter into new areas with little to no knowledge and spend no time about perfecting that. When it actually comes to understanding the market drivers, they're not really aware about what the forward indicators are that are going to indicate what's happening in that marketplace. And so as a real estate trainer, I'm not going to go and train someone on expired listings if that market is really healthy. But if I'm seeing lots and lots of expireds and withdrawns, then I've got to have a conversation around what we're doing in terms of sales process to get properties sold in 28 days or less. When I then go and have a look at that next conversation around the transactional knowledge, you need to have confidence about what you're doing. And every single time a buyer says, hey, if this goes on, or a seller says, can I do this? You need to be really clear about what the legislative requirements are for your particular state or country or territory. Now, why this is such an important conversation, if you don't get the basics right, then the skills ultimately don't really matter. And this is such an important conversation because you can have phenomenal skills, but if you don't know the basics of how you actually put a transaction together, what's happening inside of that market and its dynamics, what's actually happening in your area, then ultimately you're going to be literally found out by the consumer pretty quickly. Now more than ever before, it's about building the layers to get that confidence right, growing the skill sets of the people that are on the inside of your team so you can do more transactions more often and ultimately lead to happy customers, not only the buyer, but also to the seller side of the transaction.